Hi, my name is Mo Elbana, and I'm gonna illustrate how to scan and design on the 3Shape scanner. I entered the information here for the patient and the physician, and we're gonna be doing crown number 2. It's gonna be full contour, and the shade is gonna be C4. And really the shade option is just for our records, more or less. It's kind of relevant to the design. And then we're going to go scan. It's going to open a screen. And here's the scanner. And here's the case. And we're going to go ahead and put the prep side first to go ahead and scan that first. Here's the prep side inside the scanner. We'll close the door and it's gonna start scanning. A single case like this would probably take on average about 10 minutes. The 3Shape scanner is known to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest scanner in the market. But it also depends on how many units is the case, what are we trying to accomplish, and all that. Now it's asking me to select the teeth or tooth that we're doing, and we're doing number 2, and we're going to proceed. It's asking me here to put the opposing side, which is the other piece of the model, and we're going to scan that. Then it's going to ask me to scan the bite, which is both of them together, and we'll scan that, and then it'll scan the die or the prep tooth by itself to pick up the margin, and we'll scan that. And I'll pretty much kind of cut it short a little bit and just kind of show you the step versus to videotape the entire process. And here's the opposing or the prep side. We're going to close the door, and it started. And here it is. This is the opposing. It's asking me if I want to cut any axis, which we usually do just to kind of reduce the amount of data is being stored in the system, in the computer, because all these images are just images that get stored, and we want to try to kind of keep that at minimum, because after a while they accumulate and they just take a lot of space. So if there is some information that we don't need, then we don't need to be storing stuff that's not necessary. So we kind of cut it, and this is pretty much all I need out of the model. I don't need all that other stuff. Now we tell it to proceed. Now it's asking me to do both upper and lower to pick up the bite. And here's the case. We put the upper and lower bite, and we're going to go ahead and put it in the scanner. Close the door, and it's going to go through the motion. And here it is. It's asking me at this point if this looks alright, or wants me to verify that this is the bite. Which it is. So this looks good. We're going to tell it to go ahead and proceed. Now it's asking me to put the tooth or just the die by itself, to scan that so it can get a clear margin all the way around. And here's the die. We'll close that. And there, it's finished. Now I usually just kind of go around and look at the margin all the way around, make sure there's no distortion, this one looks good. So there's an option here before we proceed to the design, is to trim any unnecessary data like we did with the opposing on the prep side, and that's what I'm doing right now. Let's just get rid of that, and that's close enough. I got this little hole right here on the scan. Now I could take it one more step and scan the model again to close the hole without the die in place, so it can get a better image on this area. Nevertheless, that's gonna be probably unnecessary because my contact is right here and I got all the information I need to work with. So even if I do another scan and pick up this, it's not going to help me or hurt me. So I'm just going to let it go, and we're going to tell it to go ahead and proceed. And this is the final scan. This is what I got to work with. We're going to go to the design. Now we're going to identify where the margin is, and with this 3Shape 900 it actually scans real images, but I could also go to the diagram mode, which is this, and I kind of use both when I'm designing. Each one has its little advantage, and I try to use every advantage I'm able. And that looks good. We're going to proceed. Now it's telling me to pretty much identify the margin. I'm going to go into a little bit more details here. There are two options. One is I can just pretty much do a fast, quick pickup on it, which is I can draw like this, which sometimes I use for crystal clear margins. And if I have any spot that I think there is a discrepancy or I'm not sure exactly where it goes, I go to this mode and it gives me a little bit clearer image on the sharp edges on the margin. And I go into this dot mode and I can kind of push it up and down on very particular precise area as such. And I usually, for the most amount of work, I go into this mode right here and just kind of drop the margin just a little bit, because a lot of times by the time you mill, if there is a little chip or something of the milling machine, that can be fixed, versus if it was short. It's still fixable. You can always add a little porcelain, but that kind of defeats the purpose of this CAD CAM altogether. We try to be as precise and as accurate as possible. When the dot turns red, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just telling me that it dropped below the curve of the margin. Or there is like maybe an undercut or something. So unless it's like way below, for example, if I go like right here, then we know that's wrong. But if it's like for example just below right here, well, this is a little too much, but like with these two dots right here, you know, I would like to kind of keep it right here for the line. And I'm not sure how well can you see the line in the picture, but I could see it right here, and I'd like to have my dots just below that. And it's turning red. That doesn't, in this particular case, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I could lift it up and keep it blue, or I can put it where I like to, and you know, if it turns red, then that's fine. And sometimes when you take a step back with the image as such, you could kind of see a little bit bigger picture, or you could see a little bit more of the crown, and it just kind of gives you a little bit a better image. Sometimes when you zoom too much, you kind of fade out where you're trying to be. And again, I'm just videotaping this. I'm being a little bit more precise, I guess, just to show you what the system is capable of. But I think I can proceed. This looks fine. We can always go back to the real image and back up, because keep in mind that this has been, the way this looks, it's like it's under 40 plus power magnification. So little things may seem a lot here, but in reality they're so tiny that you probably need a magnifying glass or a scope to actually see what you're looking at in this image, for example. So this looks good. We're gonna proceed. And now it's giving me the path of insertion. Now it's asking me if these parameters right here are what I want as far as the cement gap, if I want to change anything, the angle of the margin, the spacer, if I want to change any of the parameters. It's given me an opportunity to do it right now, which usually these are pretty much set to our likings. With these parameters on this system, with the milling machines that we got, pretty much everything fits like a glove, and that's how I like them to be. And that's the initial proposal of the system. Now I'm going to take this and kind of change the library. I'm going to go with this library, and then I could either try to put this in the proper position manually as such, which on big cases that's the only way to do it after the initial proposal. But on single units there is an option here where I can tell the computer to position the crown, and I can modify it of course later. It's just a little quicker. This looks okay to start with. I'll proceed, and now these colors here is where the crown is touching the opposing. It's an option. I can turn them off or I can turn them on, or I could do one of the two. And I usually kind of like to work with both, sometimes with one, sometimes with none, just depending on the case. Now looking at this case right here, this first molar is a little rotated, so we're not gonna actually follow the rotation, but we're gonna try to get a little bit broader contact, because most of our accounts don't like pinpoint contacts. So and these are real cases, so I have to pretty much proceed with that, because a lot of our contacts or content, a lot of our accounts, I'm sorry, like broad contacts. Not necessarily tight, but broad. And we can look here, and this is how broad it is. This is where the redness is. Now, red means it's hitting heavy, which I can clear later. I just want to make sure for now I have that contact. We'll put the opposing on there, see where we're at. I would like to bring those cusp tips a little out, as such. Bring this side just a little bit in. And we have heavy contact here, which I can fix, but initially we have to have the crown in the proper position first, then we can work on the other stuff. Let me lift this up a little bit. And I have to use both hands right now to actually do the heavy contact areas. So I'm gonna pause for a second and I'll show you what I did in a second. Alright, so now I got rid of all the redness, all the heavy spots. I have a little bit of green and yellow and orange. That just kind of indicates that it's close. The orange, it's the closest. Yellow is somewhat close, and green, it's kind of barely there. And of course, where there's no color, then there is no contact, period. But we can see it's not penetrating the opposing. And we look at this angle to make sure the crown is in line with the rest of the teeth. And looks like everything is in line. Before I proceed to the next step, I'd like to do the excursion movement, which I put the case on an articulator, and we have the system go in lateral movement to make sure we're not hitting. And once I hit this green button, the articulator is going to start going into lateral movement, and if there is any contact on lateral movement with the crown, it's going to put it in blue. Then I will have an option to clear that or just skip it. There, that blue is where the opposing is hitting the crown on lateral movement, which we're going to clear. We're going to do it again. We have a little bit. We're going to clear that. We're going to do it again. We're going to keep doing it till we actually clear lateral movement altogether. And as you can see, it kind of distorted the contour of the crown. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go here and back up a couple of steps and try to clear some of it manually. That way the contour of the crown does not get distorted. Bring this cusp down a little bit. Bring this down a little bit, and let's see where we're at now. Okay, let's bring this down. Yeah, that's very light. Now just barely. and we're not touching anymore. As you can see, we're going into lateral movement and there's no contact anymore. We'll close that and we can smooth where we kind of grind it on the crown a little bit. Now we can do the contact. Yeah, that's pretty heavy here. And with the parameters that we got, I can hit it here and just kind of go back and do this. And as long as I have orange, I'm still going to have contact. And oops, wrong one. I'm still going to have contact, but it's not going to be heavy at all. So I have broad light contact, and that's exactly what this account likes. And if they want tight contacts, we can do that. If they want them completely out of occlusion, we can do that. And pretty much each case is set to the liking of that specific doctor. And since everything that we do is customized anyway, why not customize each person's or each doctor's preference? I like to beef up this area a little bit. And then just go back and smooth that. And that's pretty much it. That's all we got to work with, really, because of the not so much occlusal clearance. Now with this option here, it's telling me that these red spots are below the minimum thickness that the material will allow us, which is 0.4 millimeter. Anything less than that, we're taking a risk of it breaking in the milling process. So we come here and we tell it to beef those areas, and it's done. And this case is pretty much done. Sometimes they're a little prettier than this, but of course the better or the more occlusal clearance that we have, the better looking crown we get. But because we have the opposing going pretty deep and heavy, it's kind of limiting us from doing everything that we'd like to do. But for what we got to work with, this is going to turn out just fine. And we finished, we close, and we hit F7, and that just created an STL file. If we go to the milling machine right now, we'll find that there, and we'll go ahead and mill it.